Hi, everybody. Those who are watching and listening, welcome back to my channel, Experiences with Anish. Today we are here at another with another great podcast, and I think this is going to be probably a series of Microsoft Copilot sort of podcast because last week I had Femka with me, so she's an MVP and she's also completely into Copilot. It was a great session, and today this is my second guest, and I have Samuel with me today. So first of all, Samuel, thank you so much for accepting my invitation and being on my show. So how do you feel?
My pleasure, and thanks for having me. I'm feeling excited to be on the show. I love talking about anything AI,
Yeah,
but specifically Copilot and Copilot Studio.
understood. Got it. Got it. So I think, I've got in touch with you because like I've been following Femka. Like after I've got too much into Copilot, like, I've started my LinkedIn feed was like sort of, my algorithm was pushed towards having a lot of creators who are into Copilot, right? And that is when slowly I got in touch with Femka and I got her on my podcast and slowly I got you. And since I'm like also more into Copilot Studio, I thought you would be sort of, right person to get onto my show and talk a lot about, Copilot and Copilot Studio. I think, before we're diving deep into today's podcast, like, can you just tell a little bit about yourself, like what do you do at Microsoft, like your exact role, like how are you doing things currently?
Yeah, sure. So right now I'm solution engineer for modern workplace or AI business solution, basically. So I'm covering all things under modern workplace plus everything M365 Copilot and
Mm-hmm.
agents, so which is Copilot Studio. I've been at Microsoft for almost 4 years. Will be 4 year in September. Prior to that,
Wow.
been in the Microsoft ecosystem for like 14 years total. Been consultant or architect, and yeah, joined Microsoft 4 years ago.
Oh, that's amazing. I think I have, a guy with a lot of expertise and a lot of experience sitting right in front of me. So glad to have you here, Samuel, once again. So yes, guys, I think, without further ado, let's get straight into this podcast. And again, this podcast is going to be like primarily focused on Copilot and Copilot Studio, like especially like how people could, benefit from using AI. In Microsoft environment, that's what we're going to be focusing on. But like, of course, we're going to talk a little bit about like other platforms as well. But majorly, it's going to be about Copilot and Copilot Studio. All right. So I think after I've got my hands on with Copilot, right? Like I've started like, to be frank, before I got my hands dirty with Copilot, like I was thinking Copilot again, it's been built on top of OpenAI's model. So I thought like there's like not much difference between using a Copilot than I get into a chat GPT or like any other chat model. Okay. Like before I had a personal experience on that. So but then like after I knew that there was something different and I knew there was a lot of demand as well. Like in fact, like my business, like I help businesses with implementing AI automation and AI agents, right? So obviously I've got to know what is out there in the market. So I thought like why not try out Copilot? And that is when I got into Copilot. And I would say like probably the way it is being tightly integrated within Microsoft environment is like really amazing. I mean, like there's like no fragmented yet. Like I think the one good thing which I really love about Copilot and especially Copilot Studio when it comes to building agents is that it's like tightly integrated within your Microsoft environment, and we all like we can never deny that because most of the businesses do have their entire workplace set up inside Microsoft, and we all do know that, right? So having that, it's become sort of an easier for businesses to adopt using Copilot instead of like other platforms, right? So now in this scenario, like can you just give me an overview of like how Copilot is sort of helping businesses? Like what are the things that it does good in when you compare it with other platforms? With Copilot, and like what are like also the drawbacks? Because like for everything, like we have downside as well, right? Like we've got to talk about that as well, right? So like how do you think it's playing around in terms of businesses using Copilot?
So I think you explained it pretty well. The fact that it's tightly embedded in the Microsoft ecosystem is what's make us the leading platform out there for businesses. If you
Mm-hmm.
compare with other product out there, the fact that the architecture behind has been tightly developed and created around our other product. The fact that it's integrated in Outlook, it's integrated in Excel, it's integrated in Word. The fact that the agent creation in Copilot Studio
Mm-hmm.
was built on top of what was called Power Virtual Agent, which was part of a Power Platform. It's still part of the Power Platform and renamed
Yes.
Copilot Studio. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all mature in the sense that Power Virtual Agent was already there a couple of years ago, so it's all a mature product, right? And all the other business productivity application we have out there are mature product as well. The second biggest
Mm-hmm.
differentiator is the fact that we have enterprise data protection for all
Mm-hmm.
our enterprise users, and I think that's the main selling point of the platform is
Mm-hmm.
that when you're using Copilot, uh, either Copilot Chat, which is the free version, or the paid version, and you're
Yes.
logged in with your organizational account, you have full enterprise data protection. So it will stay in your tenant. It will stay in the geographical region of your tenant. We won't use your data to train any model. Never ever. It's encrypted at rest, so it's fully secured, and you don't have to worry that one of your user will upload a specific document, or input sensitive data, and that will
Hmm.
end up somewhere on the web or somewhere in the training of the model, and it will surface at some point. So that's one of the biggest advantage of using Copilot.
Yeah. Okay. And apart from like usage, and again, like just to add on to that before we get, to another question, like to add on to that, like I really love the fact that so currently I have my hands dirty on Copilot Studio, but when
Hmm.
it comes to Copilot, right, like I have a Microsoft 365 Business Standard license. Okay, so I get a part of this free Copilot. Like I haven't delved deep into this $30 per user per month in a Copilot license yet. Like I'm yet to test that out since I have like other work. I couldn't get the time to test that out, but I love the fact that even with this free version they give you this enterprise protection, since you're actually logging in with your organization account, like as you mentioned, that is like something like really super cool, I would say, because every business today, like they are like sort of worried about this, AI being training, like they're using the data to train their model, and having this data protection is like, I would say, that is like really an added advantage. So now, like, what do you think is something that Copilot is missing? Like, do you think there's anything that still has to be sort of, improved, like any sort of drawback or anything?
I mean, there's a lot of things we can improve. And what I like about Microsoft, obviously, I work at Microsoft, but what I like about our organization is that we're learning from the best, and then we start implementing them in our product. So you end up with the
Mm-hmm.
best of breed. I'll give you an example. Uh, we recently introduced Notebook inside of Copilot, which
Yes.
basically was introduced to the market by Google as
Yeah.
Notebook LM, right?
Notebook LM. Yeah.
We just introduced deep research inside of our product. We've introduced the fact that you can generate a podcast out of your note, like Google LM.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we're learning from the market in general, and we add this to our product is very make it very exciting to work for Microsoft. Is there some things missing? Obviously, there will always be some things
Yeah.
functionalities missing, because the market is, and this technology as a whole is evolving at lightning fast.
Very true.
um, and I have to say, so that's a comment I got a lot from customer. We always lag a bit behind the market, and there's a simple
Mm.
reason to that. Is because we need to build more secure infrastructure when we need to make sure that when we embed a new functionality inside of our infrastructure, that's fully secured, right? Because it's not just like taking, like OpenAI might do, like taking a functionality, just drop in the market, and just we test it and figure out that oops, it wasn't secure at all, or that there's some issues, right? We do a lot of work to make sure that everything we release as part of our product is fully secure. So it's just not the same architecture in the background.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Got it. I mean, uh, I think that is like again something different, because like what you're trying to tell is like obviously Microsoft. I think from the day like again like I think it has been just probably like 2 to 3 months since I've moved my entire workplace to Microsoft. Like even I have not been a very big user of Microsoft like previously. Like as you might know, like I'm an individual. Like everybody, like as you know, like being a small business and individual, they prefer Google just to easily getting things set up, like all those things, right? So now that I've just got my hands on with Microsoft, like obviously what do I think so far, like using Microsoft is like the architecture, as you mentioned, the back end, what they're trying to build is like always secure. They try to have that as a priority instead of just, pushing out, things as soon as possible and then just realizing that this is not actually what is required in the market, or like, this is not like as secure as possible. I think that is a good stand, I would say. Though that is putting them in a place where it's pushing them behind the market, still it's obviously, it's a good place to start with, because that's what I mean. Like at the end of the day, security and all this comes into picture, right? It is not just you have to keep pushing a lot of features just like that. Instead, like you have to have everything put up in like in a good place. That's a good thing to know as well. Now I wanted to focus more on Copilot Studio, I would say, because Copilot Studio has been like really good. I would say they've been trying to put in a lot of new functionalities. We have a lot of new things that has come into Copilot Studio. Just to name a few, like we have MCP now. MCP is
Yep.
connected. Like we can do a lot of things with that. So before we get deep into that, like I just wanted to understand like what do you think about the difference between using Copilot for agent building, and I think probably even your LinkedIn might have flooded with this N8N platform. You would have heard at least like about N8N. That's another
Mhm.
good no code agent builder, right? Like we have a lot of like relevance. I can just keep going on and on, right? So currently in the market, like what do you think, like what's the difference between using a Copilot Studio for building a agent with this no code slash low code sort of way, instead of using like other platforms?
Again, I'll end up, I think, to the tight integration with other products. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're an IT manager and you're already using M365, or which is probably the case, or you're using the Power Platform or any other Microsoft product, it's all managed the same at the same place, right? So in terms
Mm-hmm.
of managing the access for your user, in terms of governance, in terms of just simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
It will bring a lot to the table compared to other platform.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say as well that Copilot Studio is built on Azure services, which are services
Mm-hmm.
that's been there
Obviously.
for a long time, right? So it's very mature. I already mentioned it, but it was previously Power Virtual Agents, been there for a
Yeah.
couple of years, and then we took this product and we built on it. But all the services running in the background are Azure
Mm-hmm.
services, which are
Mm-hmm.
very powerful and mature. So we're not
Yeah.
new to the field of AI, actually, not at all.
I mean, I understand that. I think, now just to add on to the, like when you're talking about this governance and security, I think we have something called this Copilot control system, if I'm not wrong. Like, I think, I don't know the exact abbreviation for that. Like, I think we have something called Copilot control system wherein like you have a dedicated or like option to literally, define each and every, I would say action or like each and every step, what you want your employees, like how do you want to define the permissions, like everything, like what sort of, I mean, the things that they can do using this Copilot, like that sort of controllability is like really powerful because I've been a user of other platforms as well. Like I've used, N8N as well. Like I've used or Relay.app, like I've used Relevance. Like, maybe since my agency like focus on building AI agents for small and medium sized businesses, right? So I play around with a lot of tools. I'm not here to, I mean, like, I'm not here to again tell that, other platforms doesn't focus on security, but the level of security that Microsoft gives you in order for you to protect the agent and like how you secure your agent in terms of giving access to your employees, right? That's like really, I would say that's the level of the usage and the features is like unimaginable when you compare it to the other tools in the market. That's what my experience has been so far, especially when it comes to this governance thing. That is like something like really good to say is what I would say. That's now I think obviously at the end of the day people do think about cost, right?
Yes.
Uh, as far as I worked with like other platforms, I do feel that Microsoft Copilot is like obviously more in terms of cost when you compare it with other tools that I've used. Like now let's take small and medium sized businesses as an example. Like let's
Mhm.
say they have already maybe like they have around like 50 to 100 people in their organization. They're already using like Microsoft 365. Now they wanted to get into the Copilot Studio and start building agents for their businesses, right? We do know that I think it's been charged based on per message for each
Correct.
action. Like it's, yeah, I think it's 0.004 if I'm not wrong. I'm not sure of the exact number. You can just correct me.
It's one
But
cent US per
yeah, exactly,
1 cent
per
US per
message I
minute.
think so,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So do you think this cost is actually justifiable? Like, have you, talked to a lot of business? Like, how are they like, reacting to this cost? And like, how is it actually helping them in, getting like revenue on the investment that they're doing to this platform?
So I'll put it simply, and that's what I'm telling my customer. If you're not seeing
Mm-hmm.
an ROI, so if it costs you more, then it
Mm-hmm.
either cut the cost or improve your product or improve the quality of life of your employee, you've not built the right agent, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
like to put it simply, let's say you're creating a customer service agent with Copilot Studio, and this
Okay.
agent is retrieving information from documents you store on SharePoint. So a very basic use case. A lot of people are implementing this specific use case right now. Every time our user will ask a question, it will cost you 10 message. to retrieve the information from what we call graph grounding, so from graphs,
Yeah, yeah,
and two message for using the generative AI.
mm-hmm,
And so it's 12 cents.
yeah,
Now, take the time this employee will have to search inside all of your documents, read through it, make sense of it, and then craft an answer. I can tell you will cost
mm-hmm,
you more than 12 cents. So
yeah,
if you
obviously.
don't have an ROI, it's that you don't have the correct use case. And that's
Mm-hmm,
something I see a lot. I'm running a lot of event like what we call prompt-a-thon or agent in a day, where people
okay.
are sitting in a room and are brainstorming on the best usage
Mm-hmm,
for either Copilot or agents.
mm-hmm,
And at the end of the day, it's kind of a friendly competition with people where will showcase their use cases at the end of the day. And what I'm seeing a lot is that a lot of use cases will save them, I don't know, an hour a month, and they're the only one doing the job. And what I'm telling people is, when you're building those use cases, look at the ROI first. How many hours are you spending doing that? And how
mm-hmm,
many people are going through the same business process flow, right? If you're the only one doing it and it take you an hour a month, it's not the right use case. If you're spending 10 hours, I don't know, 10 hours a month, and you're 10 in your team doing the same thing, for sure it will pay by itself. So it's all drilled down to, you need to do the work before starting building the agent. Because
mm-hmm,
a lot of people have a lot of creativity, and that's great. There's a lot of way you can use those tools. But at the end of the day, if you're only saving an hour a month, it might not worth your time investing in building an agent for that. So
yeah.
that's one of the things. The
I mean,
second
like,
thing is that if your user has a Copilot paid license, most of the
mm-hmm,
use case will be free of charge. And I think you'll get your return of an investment just from the basic Copilot license, base license, just by being able to use it in Excel, in Word, in Microsoft Team. Summarizing your meeting, asking question about your meeting, not having to take notes. Um, just with that, you'll have your ROI, and then all the messages used by Copilot Studio are free of charge.
mm-hmm. I mean, I think this is where, like, as you mentioned, like, you've put it in a very good way. Like, I think this is where most businesses, I think they make a lot of mistake. I mean, like, as you mentioned, they do not have a right use case, which is actually, required to solve by an AI agent. Okay. Since they do not have that in proper, since they do not have that understanding as a fundamental thing, what they try to think is that, they do have a misconception that, if we make use of the CI agent and it's going to cost so much, then we're not going to get anything like out of it. And this, like, too much cost, like too much time. Like, as you mentioned, like, first, businesses have to have a solid understanding of, like, what is this use case all about, like how much time or like how much effort, like how much money are they actually putting in before they actually build this AI agent, and how is it actually impacting after they have implemented AI agent. Like, if they have a clear cut understanding of this particular, I think, pipeline, I think they'll have a very good understanding of like the cost as well. I think that point they'll not be worried about, thinking about like how much is it going to cost per, Copilot Studio license. And other thing, like as you mentioned, is that, for small business, like as you mentioned, if taking this $30, Copilot license, I think that is going to literally cover a lot of things. I don't think it's actually necessary for them to even build out agents in Copilot Studio,
Correct.
because I mean, we can just think about the use case. I can just keep going on and on and on. Like, I don't have to build an AI agent just to summarize email for me. I can do that right inside Outlook, which is already present, right? Like, similarly, if I, and similarly, I think I don't have to build an AI agent to just go through my calendar and tell me which are the events that I have to do. I think that's already like built in, right? Like, it has this integrations, right?
You won't believe how many people are coming to me with an idea for an agent, and I'm just telling them it's just basic Copilot. It's not an agent at all. It's just something you can embed in your daily workflow. You don't need an
Mm-mm-mm.
agent to do that. Like, yes, you can build an agent to do that. It will take hours of, of building. I mean, there's really simple agent that you can build, but there's very complicated agent that you can build as well. So it
Mm-mm.
all boils down to, you know, how much time will you save, or how much will you increase the quality of life of your employee, or of, the satisfaction of your customer, because that's something else. A lot of people are looking at it in the term of, will I cut cost? But there's not
Mm-mm.
only that. Will you attract new employee? Will you retain some employees? Will you make your customer more satisfied? will you increase the speed at which you can ship a product. There's other thing out there other than pure um,
Money, I would
money
say.
value, right?
Yeah. Exactly. I think we have a lot of this add-on, cofactors that actually in turn, when you sum it up, obviously it's going to help you in terms of, good revenue at the end. But as you mentioned, it's not always going to be direct it's not going to be directly tied with money, as always. People have to understand that it's going to, as you mentioned, if it's a lot of employees, putting in a lot of manual work, in that case, if you just automate that, then when you look at it in cumulative form, you'll have a lot of time saved up for your entire team, which in turn can help them to focus more on researching to build out a next product or to ship new feature. That could be anything, right? Instead of just wasting their time going through the emails or going through the Outlook, calendar, things like that, and understanding what are the events that they have, all these basic things. That's very huge. I think one thing that businesses, I think, as of now, they have to focus on is that they should really understand the capability of the current tool that is already present, how far actually they could use it before they understand. Because as far as I've seen, businesses do think that they think that they'll only make use of AI, or they think that the actual use of AI is to build some complex AI agent, out of nowhere. They don't think that using, let's say, Copilot inside my Outlook is not that effective, right? They have this misconception, right? Thinking that only if you have something like super complex AI agent setup, they think that that's actually actual usage of AI. That's a lot of misconception that has to be cleared out.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's all drilled down to one thing: training, training, and adoption program.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know what they don't know, right? You can we can't assume that user know what they can do with Copilot because people
Exactly.
have been trained 20 something years ago to Google, not to use a tool like Copilot. But Copilot, um, Copilot prompt windows do surely look like like a Google search window,
Exactly.
and people don't necessarily get the result they're expecting because they're not prompting the right way, and it's normal because nobody teaches them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the use cases, people, oh, I need an agent. No, not necessarily. You might just need a good prompt.
Very true. Very true. Totally. I mean, even just to put out the things that I do with Copilot, as of now, right? So since I deal with a lot of the AI things every day, uh, without just paying anything, I have access to the Copilot, which comes out with this enterprise data protection as well. I get a lot of things done using Copilot. I haven't built anything super complex. I haven't done anything fancy at all. I just go to my Copilot. Let's say, since I'm also working a lot with Copilot student, things like that. Whenever I have a doubt related to Microsoft Copilot, Microsoft product, right? I just get into Copilot and ask it, and it just gives me a good answer, because obviously already it's been built on top of Microsoft. It has a lot of good product knowledge as well. So whatever I have basic doubts, I easily go to Copilot and get the answer. For that, I don't build anything super complex. I think recently with this free version, we have an option to build sort of as custom GPTs, I would say. In Copilot, we have an option to build this custom Copilots, right? So what I did
Mhm.
is, like uh, uh, I make a use of a lot of this Copilot Studio again, and that's the one thing that I keep working a lot, right? So I took its entire knowledge base, I took its URL. I think for free version we could do that, right? I just put it into it, and now it can easily go through that, and it can just give me answers anytime. Let's say I wanted to use MCP as a tool inside Copilot Studio, but I don't know the steps, or I don't know how to get it started. In that case, the simple Copilot Studio, it just literally took me hardly 5 minutes, I would say, just to set it up. I just give few instructions and just put in the URL, and now I have it right inside everywhere. I can just deploy it, I have it right in my Copilot app, and I just get into it. And I say hey, today I'm planning to maybe use GitHub MCP. I wanted to integrate it into my Copilot Studio agent. How can I get it started? Just let me know how can I use this Open API file to get this YAML file. All those things, right? It is super easy, nothing fancy, nothing complex, but a lot of time saving, and a lot of good workflows with that.
Yeah, totally. Honestly, I was when I was a consultant, we were jokingly saying that we were professional Googler, right? I would have loved to have this tool. We were just good at searching information, summarizing it, and using it.
Mm-hmm.
Now Copilot is doing all the part, not just the searching. It's summarizing it for you, and it tells you what to
Exactly.
do with it. This is crazy powerful, but there's still a lot of people that don't know about it or don't. know or haven't integrated inside their workflow. Even myself, somebody, I surprised myself Googling something. I'm like, why I'm doing that? I shouldn't do that. It's not necessary.
Exactly.
Like,
Understood. I mean, that is like, something different, I would say. I know, again, just coming back to this businesses part, right? Like, do you have any very good like practical use cases that you can just probably share it with the audience? Because at the end of the, like, obviously there's a lot of things, I mean, like, businesses misunderstand because they do not know exactly what is the use case that can be built using either Copilot or Copilot Studio. So when it comes to this Copilot Studio, like this actual agent building, we have a lot of, now that we have this MCP and a lot of direct integration within Microsoft applications as well. Like, can you just give me a good, like very good, like one or two use cases that you have like maybe recently worked with a business, or like you've had this consultation?
mhm. So my top use cases for agent specifically, so I'm not talking
Hmm.
about M365
Yeah,
Copilot,
obvious. Yeah.
um, are mainly around customer service, HR, IT help desk. Why? Because those jobs are mostly around data retrieval, summarization, and usage of this data. And agents are very good at that. It's basic agents in the sense that
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
you're giving access to knowledge. It will
Yeah.
search in basic instruction. It will search this knowledge and it will basically provide you with the information ready to consume or ready to share with your customer. Now you can build far more complex workflow with Copilot Studio. I mean, I have customers using autonomous agent that will automatically answer emails based on the same kind of
Mm-hmm.
concept. We'll search the
Yeah.
knowledge base, extract the resolution, the possible resolution from this knowledge base. Then we'll craft an email and we'll send it automatically. But you don't necessarily have to start there. Um, HR is the same. Like I've seen a company create an autonomous HR agent where every time you drop a resume inside of a SharePoint folder, it will look in your Workday database and we'll see if there's a fit. If there's a fit, it will reach out automatically in Microsoft Team to the hiring manager, telling it there's might be
Mm.
a fit.
I
Uh,
mean,
yeah.
that's something amazing to look at, like, because we do know the time it takes to actually get to understand the, I mean, like the time it takes to actually hire a talent, like right from understanding the resume. Like, I mean, that's a lot of work, I would say.
I'm giving a presentation next week to a university to a co-op around human resources. So basically, they're students. They're placing students for the co-op, and I think that is one of the top use cases, human resources, because you can
Mm-hmm.
use Microsoft Team to record the interview. Then you can ask a question about the interview, or you can go in Biz Chat and tell ask BizChat to compare the interview with the job description and tell you what's the weaknesses and the strength. You can then use it to craft the job description based on the template using Microsoft Word. You can use this agent that will automatically compare resume to your job posting. I mean, there's so many good use cases because those people are working mainly with information coming from the applicant, but also information provided by the applicant. I mean, while you're
Mm-mm-mm.
having the discussion, but from document as well, from procedures, from job posting, etc. So it's a very powerful place to start implementing AI. I think.
Yeah, I think now, like just to add on to that, I think now having the also ability to easily, make use of all the different AI models that are being deployed in Azure AI Foundry. That's another, great thing as well, right? Because they don't just have to be, stuck with using OpenAI's model, right inside, like, using AI, right? That is another. I think that recently, I think it's been just 3 weeks since I just knew like how to make use of it, because I've like always had this thought, like, can I make use of like other models? Like, is there any possibility? Like, I've been thinking, and that is when, like, I just looked at a tutorial where they said now we can just easily make use of any AI model that you've built and that you've deployed in Azure AI Foundry. That is like, super useful, I would say, because in this case you don't have to be stuck with just OpenAI's model, right? Especially when it comes to extracting information from images, like a lot of OCR models. I think Mistral has a very good OCR model as well. So you can just deploy Mistral OCR model in Azure AI Foundry, which can then be deployed. It can then be used in Copilot Studio, especially when you're working with a lot of quotations, like invoices, things like that. I mean, that's a lot, right?
This is a good use case for an autonomous agent. Again, what you just
Mm-mm,
mentioned, the fact that you can extract information from an invoice, then ask for validation in Teams, and then
mm-mm, mm-mm.
maybe once it's validate, input it inside of on your ERP system. So it's very,
Yeah.
there's very powerful use case. I'll be honest, I haven't had a lot of customer asking to use other model right now, but
Mm-mm,
I
okay.
think it will come. It's still fairly new inside of Copilot Studio being able to call other model. So I think
Mm-mm,
people haven't wrapped their head around where should I use another model versus GPT. But this is a good
mm-mm.
example you just provided.
Understood. And like, what do you think about this Copilot and like in a general Copilot studio? Like, is there any options that Microsoft is like planning to come up with, letting us to decide like which orchestration model that you want to make use of? Like, I think currently it's being tied to GPT-4o, if I'm not wrong. So do you think is there any plans that Microsoft would really be open to, letting us decide which is the AI model that I wanted to use as an orchestration, like, the top AI model
Yeah,
that decides everything?
the answer is I don't know, honestly. You'll be surprised at how I get the information as the same time as customers sometimes. So
Mm.
I'm not in the secret of the gods, unfortunately. I will say that my own personal opinion, it will make sense at some point. And seeing the way we're developing the tool, we're making it more
Mm-hmm.
open by letting people, we just introduce memory, we just introduce um, as you mentioned, the fact that you can now call other models. So I'll see it as maybe a natural evolution of the platform, but that's just my take.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is I don't know.
Yeah, understood. Got it. I think, since like I've worked with like few businesses so far, like, I think after working with them, I do understand that having this capability to like maybe, call other models like in a very easy manner, I think that would be like much more efficient and like easier is what I would say. Then again, people could easily make use of like other models. That's good thing that I would love to see when, Copilot or like Microsoft, adopting it is what I would say. I think, we've slowly come to the end of the session. Like, before that, I just wanted to end this with like two more questions. Okay. Like, how are you seeing small businesses, like how are you seeing enterprises like, adopting and making use of Copilot, like on the whole? Like, do you see a lot of differences, like meaning like do you see a lot of enterprises like focusing more on Copilot and not medium-sized businesses, or like is it just, equal part?
So I'm specifically working. What we call SME and C in
Yeah.
Canada. So I'm covering mid
Mhm.
market right now.
Okay, okay.
I'm not working with SMB, but I have a lot of friends working from SMB businesses, and every time I'm telling them about Copilot or I'm showing them some functionalities, they instantly like embedded in their daily workflow. So my take on this versus a big business, which will take time. They need to build an adoption program. They need to define which workflow they want to assess first. There's a whole process like in every big or medium organization. While in small businesses, it's so much easier to just try and retry because they're
Mm-hmm.
not stuck in those big procedure or those complex business
Very
process.
true.
So
Mm-hmm.
what I found from my experience is that smaller company are more, and I think that's a good place to be right now. Are more innovative. They're more ready to try new stuff. They don't have as much pushback as bigger company, but they don't need to invest as much as well because
Mm-hmm.
they typically don't have these processes and these procedures that's been around for 20 years, right? It's just so they're able to just embed that as in their workflow. If it doesn't work, they just change the use case versus big organization. So it's very different from what I'm seeing.
Mm, understood. Got it. I mean, that's an interesting take. And just to end this, uh, I just saw your post on LinkedIn where you talked about this communication memory. If I'm not wrong, that's the word that
Yes.
is used. I think so. So can you just give a brief about that? Like, I look like I just read through. Like, I just went had a glance on it, but still I just want to understand like deep on. I think that's going to be something like super different from what other applications have been doing so far when it comes to memory, right? So can you just give throw some lights on that?
So right now, the memory in Copilot, which have been introduced not so long ago,
Yeah.
is basically trying to learn from your chat when you're in biz chat only. Okay, so when you're in
Yeah.
biz
Okay.
chat, you're saying something. It will
Mm-hmm.
try to capture some part of it, which might find it relevant. It might be or
Yeah.
not. Anyway, and we'll keep it in memory, and then we'll retrieve that basic RAG every time you're asking a question, and we'll try to see if there's a fit in the current conversation. So that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't look, it doesn't learn from your email, it doesn't learn from your Teams meeting, it doesn't learn from any other interaction you have in the other Copilot application, like when you're
Yeah.
in Word, when you're in Excel, etc. So with this new feature, it will basically learn from all these places. It will try to learn from email, from your Teams chat, from when you're asking questions in Researcher, when you're asking questions in Excel and Word, etc. And obviously, it won't keep all of this in memory, but it will summarize this information and will try to retrieve from it.
Mm.
So it,
I
it
mean,
basically give you, and that's my understanding. And it's not released yet, so it's my understanding of the
okay.
documentation right now. But
Mm-hmm.
it will basically be able to find relevant information based on the context on all your previous communication you had with
Okay. So
Copilot or even not with Copilot.
yeah. So it's like, can I just, randomly, like out of nowhere, can I just like, what was this conversation that I had? I mean, like, what was the email that I've sent, last week to this a particular person? Can I just randomly ask something like that, and will it be able to retrieve conversation from that? Like, is this like what it's gonna be,
Actually,
sort
actually,
of?
right now it can already do this because it's connected to Graph, right? So if you're
Yeah.
asking
Okay.
Copilot
Mm.
about a conversation, it will just retrieve it or try to retrieve it.
Yeah.
Um, but
But it's like
now
more
this
of a
is more.
personalization.
It's totally about the personalization. Actually, it's learning about
Okay.
who you are, what you're doing, how you want to handle things, more than
Mm.
retrieving the detail of a conversation. It's more, okay, Samuel is talking like that. So Samuel is handling a customer complaint that way, or it's handling hard conversation with a colleague like this, and it's trying to build an understanding of who you are and how you work. So every interaction or every output is closer to what you will have created yourself.
Mm, okay, understood. Got it. I mean, that's super interesting, is what I would say, because obviously, when you talk about ChatGPT, when you talk about Claude and all those things, like obviously that's an isolated platform. It's like an individual platform. But having this, like, understanding your exact persona, I would say, about like whatever you do, everything, and then having an assistant just sitting right next to you whenever you need it, that's like super powerful, I would say. So I think, with that, we've sort of come to this end of the session. It was like really great talking to you, like understanding all the Copilot and Copilot Studio, like all these things. I would really love to have another session where we sort of, do some good, like hands-on things, like where we talk about like simple use cases, but like very, helpful sort of things. Okay, like maybe building a simple custom GPT sort of thing inside, like, Copilot, like building custom Copilots, or like a simple autonomous agent using Copilot Studio. I would just love to do that maybe next time.
Sure.
So is there anything else that you would love to add, Samuel, as a last thought or something?
Actually, I'll say if you wanted to look at some use cases, best practices, go to adoption.microsoft.com. There's a
Okay.
lot of use cases available there. There's you'll learn about the Copilot Champ program, which is an adoption program. What are the best practices, what are governance best practices. Everything is there. So I will encourage all the listener to go to adoption.microsoft.com because there's a lot of um,
Mm-mm.
useful stuff if you want
Yeah.
to ramp up Copilot.
Got it. Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like I'm gonna put all those right in my description, and also like I'll add all the information about Samuel, like his LinkedIn profile and everything, right in my description. So if you're a business, if you're planning to get your workplace right into Microsoft, and you're planning to use Copilot and like everything around that revolves around Microsoft AI, then Samuel is really a good person to follow. Like since he's like purely in Copilot and Copilot Studio, you're gonna get a lot of insights from him by following him on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna put all the information on my description. So with that, we've come to the end. And again, for all the people who are watching so far, thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, Samuel. So thank you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me,
Yeah.
Yash.